why women cheat and how to not be a guy who gets cheated on, because women cheat for very different reasons for why men cheat. So if you want to get with someone who's not going to cheat on you, I suggest you watch this video. This is not something that I usually cover, but it actually is a big part of dating. How you start the dating process really matters with a woman, right? If you start it on a good footing, if you start with a good frame, then the likelihood of her cheating goes way, way down. But if you start on the wrong frame, if you start from a frame where she has significantly more power, which she will eventually grow to resent, then it's much more likely that she is going to cheat on you than if you didn't do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a story. We're going to start by talking about my buddy Rick. So Rick was a client of mine from a long time ago, okay? When he first came to me, he told me this story. He told me this story about how he wasn't really that great with women, but he eventually met the perfect girl for him. And he was so enamored with her. She was really into him. They got married. He gave her the house. He gave her everything that she wanted. And then 2 years into that relationship, he got cheated on out of nowhere with a dude who was uglier than the guy who I was coaching. So he got cheated on. And afterwards, the wife wasn't really that sympathetic. Right? She said she was sorry, but then eventually she grew angry and mad at him. And I wish I could tell you that he walked away from that relationship right away, but he stayed and he tried to make it work. Okay. This is a man who was worth millions of dollars. This is a man who, when he tried to make things work, he tried to talk to her, he tried to work after it happened, he forgave her for the mistake. She went out and she did it again, okay? And I know this dude. This dude is one of the most baller guys that I know, okay? He's super good looking, used to model when he was younger. They had kids together. None of that seemed to matter to her. And by the way, this is a guy who was doing everything nice, and they were spending more and more time together. It wasn't like he was away all the time and working. They were spending a lot of time together. Why did she cheat? Why did she cheat on my boy Rick? There are a lot of things that happen in a relationship, but one of the things that happen with women is they cheat for very different reasons than men cheat. Men will cheat a lot of times just to have fun, okay? And I'm not saying that excuses it. It doesn't. But you can tell by the way they talk about the affair afterwards. A lot of times women will say that they've fallen in love with the person who they had the affair with. Most times men won't say that. A lot of times men will cheat even if they're happy in the relationship. Women, very rarely will they cheat if they're happy in the relationship. If they're really happy, if they love the man and they're like super into him and, you know, everything's going great, they don't cheat. So what was going on that made it so bad for her? Again, this guy was rich. Again, this guy was a nice person. He was personable. He was charismatic. He was a good-looking guy too. He used to model when he was younger. None of that stuff seemed to matter. Even the fact that they had 3 kids together, none of that mattered. Okay, they had the dream lifestyle, and she gave it up. So why was she cheating on my boy Rick? As I started to talk to him, it became painfully obvious the reasons that Rick got cheated on. From the get-go, he wasn't that great with women. From the get-go, he was doing everything he possibly could to try and keep this person. Everything possible to make her happy. And that is the fastest way to have a woman not be happy in a relationship. Despite what women say, they don't want to be the center of your universe. And from day one, Rick made her the center of his universe. He basically did everything that she wanted to do, bought her all the things that she wanted, never talked back to her once. And as a result, she started to lose respect for him. You see, with women, they actually do want a guy who stands up for himself. Believe it or not, they rarely fought. They almost never fought in the relationship until, of course, that happened. And even then he would back down. But actually standing up for yourself is super, super important. And even from the first date, he went to her. He wanted to do things that she wanted to do. He stopped having his own interests. When you get into a relationship with a person, you have to start on the footing that number one, your priority, believe it or not, is not her. It's yourself. You got to make yourself happy. And if making her happy makes you happy, then great. Okay, but you shouldn't sacrifice everything that you have to be with this person. Okay, so you got to get your priorities straight. Number one is you and your health. Number two is your career, because if you don't have a career, your ability to provide and give to that relationship goes down significantly. And number three, if you are married to this person, that's where they come in. But usually if you just started dating them, your friends, your family, really close friends and really close family comes then. But if you're married, now she's family. She goes to number 3. But you have to take care of those first 2 things first. When you first start dating somebody, the best that she can be is 4th. And when you're married, now she's 3rd. But she will never be number 1. Now, you don't have to tell her this, but you know within your heart of hearts that your health and your career, they gotta come first. Now, that doesn't mean completely ignoring her, but it does mean that hey, I'm gonna be working pretty hard. Maybe we might have to push date night back a few nights, right? You still make time for her, but the first thing that needs to get done is for what you need to get done with you and your career. And that above all, because a woman wants to get with a man who's growing, who's bettering himself. She wants to be with somebody that's heading somewhere. And women really don't like being the one to lead the dance. A lot of times, if they find that all the guy's doing is just everything she wants to try and make her happy, women actually don't want that. They don't want that much responsibility. What they do want is they do want a guy who is going after something and they can follow them. They can admire them. They can respect them. This doesn't mean that she can't work for herself. This doesn't mean that she can't do things on her own, but it does mean that at the end of the day, she wants to get with somebody who is heading somewhere and she can follow. And if the only thing that you're looking at is her, if you feel like, oh, I got her and I'm done, then be prepared to get cheated on. Because I've seen this happen to a lot of great guys out there. And it's exactly what happened to my friend Rick. So when I took him in, we learned how to execute and handle a date in the right way from the get-go, right? Learning how to do things that he wants to do and bring people in, lead them somewhere. Most times, guys don't know how to lead. You see, we've been brought up in society to just be a guy who's like, I'm going to be a good little boy. I'm going to do everything that I'm supposed to do. And when you do that, women stop respecting you. But ironically, that's what society has made a lot of men. It's what made my boy Rick. He came in, did everything society asked of him. He got great grades. He went to a great college. He got a great job. He found the woman he loved. He did everything he could for her, provided for her, gave her a home, helped take care of the kids, took her out on date nights. It wasn't enough. And it wasn't enough because all he was doing was trying to make other people happy. But what about himself? And the funny thing is, when he didn't take care of himself and he only took care of other people, those other people started resenting him. I've seen this happen in my own life too, where I've done everything that I can to try and make somebody happy and they've thrown it back in my face. Maybe you watching this have had that experience happen to you. And when it happens, you have to take back control. You have to take back control of your own happiness. If you let other people dictate how and where you're going to feel, guess what? They're probably going to hurt you. So what you need to do is do the things that make you happy. One of the exercises that I give a lot of my clients is figuring out what is actually the stuff they enjoy doing and how do I bring people into it? How do I make a life that is good? If you already have an awesome life, and you bring somebody into it, the likelihood of her cheating is so freaking low that it almost never happens. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like communication and all that stuff doesn't matter in a relationship. Obviously, if a woman has been in a relationship and she hasn't felt heard for a long time, then there's probably going to be issues that come up later. But the most devastating things that I see happening is when a woman cheats, when the guy's done everything he can to try and make it work. Communication was not the issue here. The issue was that he was not going after the things that he wanted, and his wife was unable to verbalize why she was losing attraction for him, why she was losing respect for him, because he was seemingly doing everything right. You see, very often women will remain silent about the most important topics when it comes to men and dating and what actually makes them feel desire for a guy. The reason why they don't want to tell you this is because they are ashamed of it. Do you think she's going to tell you that oh, I'm sorry that, I slept with a bunch of young, dumb guys who treated me like dirt? Ow! That's embarrassing. Doesn't make her look good. So they never admit it. Do you think a woman's going to tell you he just wasn't enough of a man or he wasn't ambitious enough? No, because that sounds mean. I mean, that's probably a little bit better than the first thing, but you rarely hear women saying this. I've rarely heard a woman call a guy who she used to date a pushover or a pussy. Almost never. You hear things like this. Oh, he's just a great guy, but, we just kind of grew apart and we fell out of love. And, you hear all that. But what you don't hear was that this guy couldn't stand up for himself. I couldn't respect him and I stopped feeling attraction for him. I did not want to have sex with him and I found other men much more attractive. And eventually at some point, I decided to jump ship. You have to understand, you read between the lines with a lot of these women, what they're saying is not the thing that is actually going on. What is actually going on is when you have proper masculine feminine polarity, the feminine does not want to cheat. The problem with this though is that if you have proper masculine feminine connection, sometimes the masculine still will, okay? So that's something that you got to work on yourself, but we're talking about women cheating here, okay? Not that that's not a problem, it is a problem, but if you look at the stats, men cheat slightly more than women do, but women are pretty damn close. And the number one reason why women cheat is because of the guy who she's with. So start from a place where you are leading her. Start from a place where you are caring about your own fun, your own enjoyment. As number one, this is not to say that you're pushing her down, you're making her feel bad. You care about her enjoyment too, but don't forget about your own as well too, because if all you care about is her and you neglect yourself, guess what? That's going to come back to bite you. Believe it or not, women do like their man to be a little selfish sometimes. And learning to embrace that. Most of the guys who watch my channel, they suffer from nice guy behaviors. They've been too nice to women. They've been overly giving. And because of that, they get taken advantage of. Both men and women will treat you as you let them treat you. So number one, having the ability to walk away can help. Number two, asking yourself what you want and going for it more will also help. And number three, being able to lead and come across as a masculine guy who she can honestly follow and respect will seal it. A woman like that will never cheat on a guy. I have a girlfriend right now, and I'm not the perfect boyfriend, by the way. Far from it. But I have absolutely no worries that she's going to go off and do something else because I exhibit those characteristics. It doesn't mean that we won't have other issues, but it does mean that I have no fear about that. Cool, but thanks for watching, you guys. I mean, have you been cheated on? Have you been hurt? Have you done everything that you could for a woman and had her betray you? Let me know in the comment section below. I mean, your stories and everything. This is the reason why I do what I do. And if you're a guy who's been through this and you want to make sure that this never happens to you again, then I highly recommend that you click the link down below, book a call with me or a member of my team. Like I said, we can't help everybody, but if we hear your story and we feel like we can help you, I guarantee you're going to get a lot out of it. So thanks for watching, you guys. Good luck out there.